Good morning, everyone. I have had a few questions about the final PPE report. I wanted to provide you with some insight and guidance on that. And so I will apologize in advance if this gets too long, but I'm thinking it will answer a lot of your questions. And so I'm just going to start off. I'm at the HIM PPE website, and I'm going to go to the final PPE report instructions here. All right, so I'm gonna, in order to kind of keep this brief, I'm going to jump right to the PPE project, which is the first section in your final PPE report. Okay, and so let's talk a little bit about this. The first thing that I need you to do is complete the PPE project information document. And this document can be found by going up to project information, I believe. Yes, project information. And so by looking at this, really all you need to do is copy and paste these headings into that first page. You could download the PDF here, but I don't think that would be very, very helpful. It'd probably be easier just to copy and paste this right onto that first page, okay? So do that. I'm gonna go back to the instructions here. All right. So in that, of course, you're going to need to address the different sections. So first of all, provide an introduction and a brief overview of the project, including a problem statement. So definitely look into how to develop a clear and concise problem statement. In this section, you should address any contextual factors that are contributing to the problem. So constraints, which is, maybe limits on cost, available resources for you, attitudes, and I should say available resources, maybe that is limited resources, attitudes such as biases and desired additional knowledge which affect how the problem can be best solved in the real world setting of your PPE site. So talking about what caused the problem, why is it a problem, that kind of discussion would be really good here. Next would be the strategy and the action plan. So identify the approaches and strategies you considered in solving the problem or completing the project. Honestly, here I'm going to be looking for a couple. So try to think of different approaches that one could take for this project, whether it's in the type of research that you conduct in order to approach it, the different people that you could talk to or that you will talk to, just consider all of those things. Then you want to define your strategy. So out of those approaches or strategies you considered, which one did you decide to go with? Next, identify your action plan, so the steps you will take to complete the project. The methodology is very kind of similar to the action plan, but again here, just again confirming the type of methodology that you use in order to complete the project. So any data analysis, resources, interviews, data collection, research, or supporting documentation that you used in order to complete the project, address that there. Lastly, results, recommendations, findings. So the results from the project. And so that might be the development of a policy procedure, the development of a method for billing pharmacy consultations. I'm trying to think of some of the examples of your projects, but whatever that end result is, and then if you can provide a copy of the deliverable or the end product. And again, remember here, make sure that it's okay that you share that with me and with your classmates, because you'll probably want to share that in your PPE presentation when you get back. So also, if you presented the end product or the deliverable to anybody at your site, please share the presentation slides or any kind of maybe handouts or anything that you gave or used in delivering that presentation. And then lastly, make sure that you include the references and resources on a reference page, okay? And then I will use this grading rubric. And so here again, take a look at this because, I want you to define a clear and insightful problem statement with evidence of all relevant related factors. Again, in your strategies and action plans, I'm going to look at your approach for solving the problem. Clearly and thoroughly identifies the strategies that you will use, and the action plan steps are clearly identified and thoroughly explained. Methodology, where you synthesize information from multiple resources to develop an appropriate methodology. So again, who are you going to talk to? How are they connected to, say, the policy that you're also going to use? How are they connected to the process you're evaluating? So think about how you can bring that all together and kind of connect the dots for me. Remember, you're writing this paper as if I know nothing about the topic, okay? Results, recommendations, findings, and the end product thoroughly and deeply, addresses that you address this thoroughly and deeply with including multiple appropriate factors of the problem. So, relate everything back to that problem statement. And I'm looking for very good writing here, okay? And so do your best in kind of connecting all the dots and laying out this project. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little break and I'm going to go over to a kind of template that I've developed, and I will share this in Blackboard with all of you, but I want to just kind of show you how then to lay this out, and then I'll go into the other sections. So I'm going to do a new share here. Bear with me. All right. Okay, so this is kind of how I would like your cover page or title page to look for this final PPE report. So you're going to obviously label it with the final PPE report. Give me your name. I would like you to document the name and the address of the site, your PPE site. Then here list the PPE mentor's name and their title, and also give me your dates that you are on the PPE, okay? All right, then immediately following the title page, I would like to see a table of contents. And so as you can see here, I've laid out the PPE project, right? And so letter A here, the first thing in this list is the PPE project information document, and then it goes into the different headings. And so I would expect that you would use these headings then in the body of your report, and this will allow me to be able to follow this really well and easily grade it. And so I appreciate any kind of headings that you can use, preferably to the left of the page and bolded. All right. So I'm going to scroll down here just to show you this first section here. So PPE project information document, this is where you would fill all that information in. And then I just kind of wanted to demonstrate how you would do appendices. And so you're going to write, I used this in my last class, you're going to write here the introduction and provide an overview of the project. Say that you want to give an example or direct your reader to, say, the release of information policy. And so this is an example of how you would then direct your reader to an appendix, okay? So the release of information policy, see Appendix A, and then I would go to the very end and I would see here Appendix A and release of information policy, and you would just, copy and paste it here, or whatever. So that is kind of how I want that laid out. And so I'll just kind of go over the rest of this table of contents, and then I'll jump back into the instructions. So content area essays. This is just an example. These are just totally off the top of my head here. These content areas I've selected, and so I just lay them out nicely here. Content area 1, data governance processes. So then make sure that you use this as the heading within the body of your report. Workflow analysis, you're going to provide the diagram, right? And here this is my example workflow diagram of continuity of care ROI request processing. So give me some indication of what the workflow diagram is in regard to. Then you're going to compile your workflow analysis report. That should immediately follow it. We're going to next have the management leadership principles section. You're going to do that management style interview with a leader at your organization. You're going to provide the organization chart, and then you're going to do a management function based on the person you interviewed, their role. Then you will conclude with your PPE reflection paper, and then also give me some direction here for appendices, and kind of list them out as well in the page numbers. So that's the other thing that's maybe missing from my template is page numbers. And so make sure that you include those. What else do I want to say about this? I had a thought and I totally lost it. Oh, I know what it is. If you do have references for any of these content areas, definitely include that in here as well. I should say references, and then you would have your page number. Okay, so the same goes for any of these other sections. If you do have a reference page, make sure that you include it here. Okay. All right. So as I said, I will share this with all of you. Okay. Now back to the instructions. Let's see here. Okay. So the next section is the content areas. And remember, the content areas are anything you wish to share, okay? I really have no hard and fast rules on what you can talk about with your content areas. For example, I know that one student was given 3 projects, and I suggested to her that maybe she wanted to do her report on the project, that section of on maybe the most complex project, and then maybe she wants to use the other projects as content areas. I am totally fine with that. And so maybe just think about that, and really I would like it to be what interests you the most. What did you find the most interesting about your PPE and want to share? Because it's a lot easier to write about something that interests you than something that's been prescribed. Okay. So let's, I want you to pay close attention to this next, set of instructions, because after grading my fall students' PPE reports, I can tell you some of the things that I saw and maybe where they missed elements that I was looking for. Okay, so for each essay, you need to have a clear introduction. I want you to provide relevant background on the specific purpose of the essay. Is it to inform me? Is it to share? Like what are you, why are you writing an essay? And this isn't because I have to know, this is just good writing, okay? I want you to have a clear statement of the overall point you want to make in the essay. So what is your intent, your overall intent of sharing this information? Again, is it to sell your, maybe share your opinion on the topic? Is it, this is an area that is really interesting and should be maybe considered by up and coming HIM professionals, maybe students that visit this organization in the future for their PPEs, maybe this is an area that they really need to look at because it's, because of X, Y, and Z, okay? Then I want you to clearly and thoroughly explain the content area, whether it's a person, a role, a process, a project, or a policy. So these things can all kind of blend together, but it needs to come across very clearly to me, okay? Then in the body of the essay, you want to explain the content area. So I want you to address several 2 to 3 writing prompts from below. So here are your writing prompts, okay? These are going to help you kind of convey the information that I'm looking for. I want each paragraph to provide information that supports the overall point you want to make in the essay. So again, up here, relate everything back to these things. Use appropriate, relevant, and compelling information to illustrate your mastery of the subject and your understanding of the content area. Super important, okay? Because it's okay to maybe feel like you're elaborating too much, but all of that tells me and can show me that you've learned it and that that you understand it. You're able to connect the dots, right? Then this is probably the area that I saw most students miss in terms of the reports I just graded. And so I want you to explain the relationship of the content area to HIM course content. You should answer the question, how did your exploration of the content area connect to your academic work? I want you to provide 2 examples of course content from readings, assignments, projects, presentations, or lectures that you heard in the past. So, you know, maybe it's a section of the Oaks and Waters textbook. Maybe it's an assignment you completed in a med legal course. Maybe it's a project you completed for Janelle. Whatever it is, relating it back to that is super important, okay? Lastly, conclusion, summarized information you shared, just a really, you know, brief summary, and then conclude with your thoughts on the content area, okay? And so these thoughts on the content area would probably relate back up here to the introduction section in the overall point that you wanted to make, or the purpose, okay? All right, so that's that section. I am not going to go through this this grading rubric because I would like to keep this short for you. I don't want to keep you any longer than I have to. Okay, next is your workflow analysis. You're going to identify a current as-is process at the PPE site. So pick a process that they do. I don't know how else to say that. So notice here, a process is a collection of interrelated work tasks in response to an event that achieves a specific result for a customer. So do not confuse a process with a function, which is an occupation or department, okay? This is very specific, okay? So in my example, I think I used, you know, the process of processing continuity of care release of information requests. It's very specific, and it takes specific steps in order to complete that process. Whereas I'm not going to do the entire role of a release of information clerk. That would not be a process. That is a role. Okay, so I'm hoping I'm making myself clear here. Then what I want you to do is I want you to conduct an interview or multiple interviews and observe the people doing the process to really determine the details that are involved. And so during that interview, you should really identify the ways that can vary. So what parts of the process would maybe be different under different circumstances. So if this, then that, or if this happens, then what is the next step? Is there a decision that needs to be made? Yes, no. Okay, then we go on to this step. Okay, I think you get it. You should try to observe like 3 to 5 episodes of that process and, you know, really identifying the major ways that it can vary. I'll be honest with you, the next section is probably the area that my fall students also lacked in really diving deep into this. So you're going to develop that workflow diagram. Actually, no, not this section, sorry. Develop the workflow diagram of the current as-is process, okay? I'm not going to read this out to you. I want you to read that for yourself. This is the next section. Section 3 is the area that my fall students struggled a little bit with. So when you analyze the current state to identify areas of opportunity, I want you to really identify these areas. They did not address them. I'm not looking for you to address all of these A through J. Maybe pick 2 or 3 that stood out to you, okay? maybe there are bottlenecks, there are sources of delay. Why is it taking so long for this step to complete, so that the next step can begin? Reworked error. Maybe there is you realize that Amy is doing the same thing as Jane, and why are they both doing that? And so those kinds of things. Okay, I want you to address these, but I don't want you to have to address all of them, because not all situations are going to have the same areas of opportunity. Okay, then oh, also, if there aren't any areas of opportunity, there were a few cases for my FAL students where there weren't, then explain that. Explain, I didn't see any bottlenecks. I didn't see any sources of delay. It flowed very smoothly because of this, this, and this. Like, really explain it to me, because just saying there weren't any areas of opportunity is not going to be sufficient. I will not give you credit for that section if you don't really kind of try to explain it to me, okay? Lastly, then you're going to develop a paper that addresses a brief explanation of the process you chose to analyze and why you selected it. You're going to explain how you conducted your analysis of the as-is process and the findings or those areas of opportunity, okay? And then you're going to share your thoughts on how the identified areas of opportunity could be remedied and how your solution could improve the process. So again, explaining to me if there aren't any areas of opportunity, then you should, in this last section where it says share your thoughts on how the identified areas of opportunity could be remedied and how your solution could improve the process, you need to really get creative there in how you're going to explain that, okay? Try to elaborate on, again, why it's working so well, okay? All right, next section, the management and leadership principles. I'm going to scroll down here. If you can't remember the theory X and theory Y definitions, I have them here for you as well. So your interview, you're going to look back in Blackboard in the Unit 4 Management Style Discussion. I shared a copy of the Google Doc there. You're going to select or develop 10 interview questions for an interview with your site mentor or another leader at the organization. And I want to see what those questions are. Okay, so in this first section of, you're going to give me the name and the title of the person you're interviewing. I want a list of the interview questions, a summary report of the leader's responses to the interview questions. I'm okay doing this either way. There's two different ways I've seen it. One is you provide a list, and then after each question is identified, you give me a summary of the leader's responses, or you can simply provide a list and do a separate kind of section on summarizing their responses to all of the questions. Whatever you prefer is fine with me. And then the last part of that component of the report, you're going to give me your assessment on whether the leader has supervisory style of theory X or theory Y, and then their traits that helped you reach that conclusion. Okay, I would like you to then include a organization chart. Please make this of your own creation. Do not copy and paste from the organization. There's a couple reasons here. One, I want to make sure that you know how to create an org chart, that you can do it, that it flows well. It can focus on managers, supervisors, or leads. Some organizations are very small, and it's okay to include staff as well, but some organizations like, say, Children's Hospital are very large. And so focusing on more of the management is just fine. Then lastly, this is really important, is to really explore the management functions that this leader performs. I want you to definitely go in and review the Oaks and Waters text, gain a good understanding of each of these management functions, and then I want you to describe how they're involved with each of the functions. Explain why they may be more involved in some functions and not others. And so again here, this is also an area where I felt that more depth could be given in terms of your evaluation of the leader's managerial functions, okay? Lastly, is your reflection paper, and this is pretty self-explanatory. I want you to just answer these questions that I have listed here, okay? And of course, I'm going to be looking at the depth of your reflection and your writing, and so just take the time that you need to develop this essay, okay? All right, that's it. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I went through this pretty quickly, and so I understand if you do have questions, but I'm hoping I gave you enough tips and instruction here to guide you in the development of your report. All right, I look forward to seeing all of you after spring break, and learn lots. All right, bye.